stumble through your days. Got your head hung low, your sky's a shade of gray, like a zombie in a maze. You're asleep inside, but you can't shake away.
'Cause you're just a dead man walking, thinking that's your only option. But you can flip the switch and brighten up your darkest day. Sun is up and the colors blinding. Take the one and redefine it. Leave behind your narrow mind. You'll never be the same.
Come alive, come alive, come and light your light. Let it burn so bright, reaching up to the sky, and it's open wide. You're electrified.
When the world becomes a fantasy and you're more than you can ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. So come alive. See it in your eyes. You believe that a lie, that you need to hide your face. Afraid to step outside, so you lock the door. But don't you stay that way.
You and me, we don't have to let go.
'Cause once you see it all, you'll never, never be the same. We'll be the light that's shining, but you'll have to keep on trying. You can prove there's more to you. You cannot be afraid. Come alive, come alive,
Come and light your light, let it burn so bright, reaching up to the sky, and it's open wide. You're electrified.
when the world becomes a fantasy and you're more than you could ever be. 'Cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open.
And you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with the eyes wide open. So come alive.
Come on, stand with us and sing. Sing with us. Come on, come on,
Come here,
come on.
anyone who's burning with a dream.
Come on, you hear the call. To anyone who's searching for a way to break free.
Break free,
When the world becomes a fantasy and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And we know we can't go back again to the world that we were living in, 'cause we're dreaming with the eyes wide open. When the world becomes a fantasy and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And we know we can't go back again to the world that we were living in, 'cause we're dreaming with the eyes wide open. 'Cause we're dreaming with the eyes wide open. So come alive.
Q. I hope that was a good opening number. Are you ready to come alive? Hope so. Some of you will think about that song, well, where's God in it? Where's Jesus in it? This is supposed to be church. And I was brought up very much to an understanding that God could only be found in certain things. And that's because we were influenced by very much a Greek mindset that taught us that we had to separate things. We had to separate the world from the spiritual. We had to separate good from bad. You know, we were sinful people that were always having to search for something better. And of course, religion is going to absolutely thrive in that sort of situation because it's looking for people who are always thinking, oh, this is awful and I need to better myself. Yet what happens is if we realize that we were always meant to understand our place in the great picture of things, that as human beings, we are incredibly powerful. And like that slide said at the beginning, that our greatest fear is actually not that we're inadequate, but it's actually we're more powerful than we could ever know. And actually that's the problem with us, and that's why we tend as human beings to actually gravitate towards religion. Because why? It's always going to tell you what you're not rather than tell you what you are. Because if it tells you what you're not, it's never going to go out of business. If it tells you what you are, it can actually help you to be the light that shines, to be an incredible help to this world, and actually be a change. So I want to tell you tonight that our whole evening is about you coming to an understanding how incredible you are and how astonishing you are. And Connie's going to tell you a bit more about that now in a song. Thank you.
I thought home was all I'd ever want, my attic all I'd ever need. Now nothing feels the way it was before, and I don't know how to proceed. I only know I'm meant for something more. I have to know if I can be astonishing. There's a life that I am meant to live, a life like nothing I have known. I can feel it, and though it's far from here, I've got to find it on my own. Even now I feel its heat upon my skin, a life of passion that pulls me from within, a life that I am aching to begin. I must go somewhere I can be astonishing, astonishing. I'll find my way. I'll find it far away. I'll find it in the unexpected and unknown. I'll find my life in my own way today. Here I go, and there's no turning back. My great adventure has begun. I may be small, but I've got giant plans to shine as brightly as the sun. I will blaze until I find my time and place. I will be fearless, surrendering modesty and grace. I will not disappear without a trace. I'll shout and start a riot, be anything but quiet. Christopher Columbus, I'll be astonishing, astonishing, astonishing.
All right, now watching that might make some of you feel very small and insignificant, but our job tonight is to show you how huge you are, how big you are, how significant you are in this whole thing. I love what we started out tonight singing, and you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in because you're dreaming with your eyes wide open, so come alive. Last week, I brought you to a little story in the Bible. Interesting thing about it was that we explained that in the ancient idioms of the communication method of the world as it was, meaning in story was incredibly important. And so when we read those ancient texts, there is a meaning within the story. So we talked a little bit last week about how this guy, Abraham, was told to take the carcasses of animals, divide them down the middle, make a passage that was full of blood, and supposed to walk through that passage with the person you were supposed to make a covenant or promise with, which was God, but how God put Abraham to sleep before the event ever happened. Now, what I want to say about that in just a quick summary is this, that the blood-soaked scene that we encountered was not an expression of wanton violence, but a testament to the importance placed upon blood as the currency of covenant and promise in ancient cultures. They believed the life was in the blood. So when blood was given, it meant you made the ultimate, most extreme form of promise that you could ever make, which is why in the Christian gospel, the cross stands proud because it's a picture of this image of the life in the blood, that God could not make any more serious a promise to this than he did with the blood that was on the cross. A covenant made with blood was never a case of might or maybe or possibly, or we'll see how things will go. It was always a definitive promise. And in what we saw last week, God eliminated Abraham from the process by putting him to sleep. The reason being, the only way that this promise could fail to become a reality is if the weakness of humanity was given a major role in the process. So God puts Abraham to sleep, God walks through, God makes a promise to himself, Abraham wakes up, and he is simply the beneficiary of a promise that God has made to himself that he will never break, that we call the new covenant, God's promise of blessing to us. Now, that same Abraham, when he was having this experience, which is recorded in the Bible in Genesis chapter 15, there are a couple of things that God said to him before this event of new covenant promise, which he didn't make so he couldn't break. And this is what it says, Genesis 15 verse 4. The word of the Lord came to him because the whole issue is about him having children. Now, remember the story within the text. The story was something bigger, something greater, something more is going to come out of you, even though it seems you're too old, you're too dead, you're past it, but something alive is going to come out of you. And so this is the bit I wanted to read. So God took him outside and said, "Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." Then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be," or what's going to come out of you is going to be as big, as great as that. And then he says in Genesis 22, verse 17, "I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore." And it says Abraham believed God, and it counted for something. It counts for something when you believe the truth about God. The truth about God was he takes this guy out, he says, "Look into the heavens, Abraham, and look at the stars. If you can count them, that's how massive and great this thing that's going to come out of you will be." Now, living in a city like York with all the light pollution we have, you would pretty much be able to count the stars. But if you've ever been out in the dark beyond, like I have been in the deserts of Arizona, where there's no light pollution, and you look in the sky, it is staggering at the billions of stars that you can then begin to see. And he also took him the other way and said, "What about the sand of the seashore?" So God was speaking to Abraham about the biggest thing that he could comprehend, the heavens, to the smallest thing that he could comprehend, a grain of sand. Now, if this were now, God wouldn't say that. If this were now, the terminology would be, look through the Hubble Space Telescope, witness the black holes, see the supernovas, witness the different galaxies, see the 100 billion galaxies that are out there that are in your sight. And then he'd go the other way, and it wouldn't be about the sand of the seashore. He would be saying the atoms, the electrons, the neutrons, the subatomic particles, the quarks, and the leptons. So he'd be saying, I want you to look, because your descendants will be like the leptons within the quarks that are in the subatomic particles. Amazing things that we now know that a thing can be in two places at once. That we know that in the galaxy there are things that weigh 100 billion tons that can fit on a teaspoon. Now your mind goes, wow. But these are the big things. What God was doing in Abraham's language and what God is doing in our language is saying, just like the video, go out to the farthest you can possibly go. And go down to the smallest that you can possibly imagine. But here's the deal, yet somehow in the middle of all that vastness, the focus falls on a Middle Eastern shepherd who hardly knows where he is, never mind who he is, but suddenly he's the focus of all this vastness. He is not lost within it, he is the center of it. And the miracle of God is that he shows us that expanse up there and that minuscule down there, not to belittle us, not to make us feel small and insignificant, but just like that shepherd, that Middle Eastern shepherd who hardly even knew where he was, like some of you and me, and hardly knew who he was, like some of you and me, that somehow he was at the center of this whole thing. You are important, and I will talk about what that means for us when we come back for the next little slot.
Hello. Is everybody there? Hey, there we go. That was strange. It was all dark. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Georgia. Is everybody having a nice evening? Excellent. Hasn't the music been amazing so far? It's been incredible, hasn't it? Okay, we've got another song now, and it's a little bit of fun. So I need you to loosen up, and I need you to stand up. Yes, this is a participation one. Okay, we were just talking about someone whose name begins with A. Can you remember who it is? Abraham, very good. Quiz question number 1. He was what you call a hero of faith. Now, this song is all about faith. Kids, time to come up on stage, grab a guitar on the way up. We're going to have a little dance. Now, faith is when you believe in what you cannot see. I want you to just scratch your head for a moment, everybody. Can you think of an example, maybe at the moment, where you think, I need some faith because I can't see this situation getting any better. I can't see this person in my family becoming any less annoying, or I can't see this relationship becoming any better, or I can't see my kids ever turning into something, or I can't see whatever it is that you can't see. Faith is when you say, okay, I can't see that, but I'm going to believe in something bigger than that, and that is what this song is all about. Come on, guys. If you get stuck, the actions go like this. One hand like this. Come on, everybody. One hand like this. Even you guys. One hand like this. And we're going to do the twist. You guys know this. This is your era. Okay, we got it. Okay, let's go, guys. Show me the twist. Come on. Here we go now. Okay, follow me. Now, I can't see gravity, but it's everywhere I look. I can't see the air I breathed in that last breath I took. And I can't see smelly smells, but when I make one, you can tell. There are powerful things that I just cannot see, like all your love and all your power coming alive in me. Now I know what I hope for, and some might call this fake. Hands up! But I believe in what I cannot see, and that's what we call faith. Woohoo! Okay, hand on your heart, everybody. Come on now. Now you can't see what I feel, or when I have been unkind, and you can't see what I think, but it's always on my mind. You can't see the shouts I yell, but when I'm shouting, you can tell. There are powerful things that I just just cannot see. Like all your love and all your power coming alive in me. Now I know what I hope for, and some might call this fake. Hands up! But I believe in what I cannot see, and that's what we call faith. Woohoo! Arms in the air, everybody, come on. I can't see you, my God, but I know that you are here. I can't see your open arms, but your love destroys my fear. I can't see forgiveness, but you're dying to give this. There are powerful things I just cannot see, like all your love and all your power coming alive in me. Now I know what I hope for, and some might call this fake. Last time, 'cause I believe in what I cannot see, and that's what we call faith. Woo-hoo! Okay, make some noise, QChurch! Come on, everybody! 3, 2, 1, woo!
Hi. I got stuck with all the children. Right, I've got a couple of jobs tonight. First of all, I'm going to do the slot that Ruth Devo did last week, where we talk about the sound of Q, and there being no Q without you. So I thought, as a launch last week, I thought that Ruth's message was just perfect for a launch. So well done, Ruth. That was lovely. And the thing that I wanted to talk to you about tonight was how last week we gave out little goodie bags, and I'm sorry that they weren't at the front this week, but anyone who's new tonight, please do grab one from the front. They are there now. But I had this idea to do these little goodie bags. Sorry, out of breath from the steps. So I had this idea to give these little goodie bags out. Sorry. Oh, no, we're not allowed more than one person out of breath. So we gave out these little goodie bags last week, and it's an idea that came to me kind of out of nowhere, really. But it's something that I put forward to our leaders, and they decided to go with it. So I also want to say thank you to Anth and Chris, and also to my mum, Angela, and Danny for the 4+ hours that they spent on Saturday, putting them all together so that we could give them out to you last Sunday. We had a very funny 4 hours as well, but I won't go into that. Anth's got some cracking jokes, by the way. Love them. Right, so anyway, hopefully you all liked the little bags that you got. I know that some were disappointed that not everything in them was edible. And some got horrible shock when they put the green soap in their mouths. Wherever he is, I won't mention any names, but I wouldn't put something green in my mouth. Dave Raven. But what I loved about the little bags and the idea that I had for them really is that they are all unique. Everyone who got one has a different stone in the bag, a different piece of the puzzle, and a different key. But the message that's carried in the bags is the same for everyone, that each day is a chance for a fresh start, that wounds can be healed, there are no unredeemable mistakes in our lives, and the tiny little mustard seed, if you saw that, my mum glued all those on there for us. It took absolutely ages, bless her. But the idea is that if you have even just the tiniest little amount of faith, that actually you can move mountains, you can do all sorts of things with just a start of a tiny little bit of faith. So the puzzle was that you are all part of the bigger picture. And the key to free others is the key to your freedom, which is, for me, it's to do with forgiveness. I know that I had a chat with Chris years ago now it was, but there was something that came up where we were talking about a particular person. Can't even remember who it was now, so obviously worked. But we were talking about how if you haven't forgiven somebody, essentially you are in your own little prison cell and they're in there with you. Now, if you want to free yourself and you have the key, the thing is that they're going to get out of that as well. So you also have to free them in order to free yourself. So I think that for me has been a massive message. So that's why I like to include that in there. And also, personally, I don't think that I make a very nice sound without Q. So being part of this community has definitely made my life better. And more importantly, it makes me want to become a better person. And I still have bad days, lots of them, where I want to rip somebody's head off and swear a lot. But for me, being just the you without the Q is kind of, for me, it's selfish. And I don't want to live selfishly. And I don't want to just be living for myself. I want to be living for a more beautiful world. So the sound of Q for me is about love and generosity and kindness. It's not religious, which is great because I hate religion. It's honesty, it's truth. And as well, obviously, there's the wider message that we're on a quest for beauty and joy and spirituality and a new world. All these things we actually learn here at Q. But then it's up to us to go out and make that sound in the world. So we would love to hear your stories. It would be nice to have somebody else up here next week doing the, talking about whatever you have done, where have you been the sound of Q. And it doesn't really matter if you think that maybe only one person might like your message, because actually if it speaks to one person, then it's worth doing. Okay, so that's job number 1. Job number 2, notices for this week. Okay, so we are going to do our pay it forward soon. So if the guys who are going to come and collect the offering could just come up here. We're going to do it after I've done this bit. So it's going to be during the song, which is following. But yeah, if you would like to donate to us and the work that we're doing here, we do this each week where we take a collection, and it's all about paying forward. So in other churches they call it tithes and offerings, but we like to say that it's paying it forward. And again, if you have that tiny little mustard seed of faith, that you could maybe give something tonight if you don't usually give, or if you give a certain amount each week religiously, if you could maybe take a little step of faith and give something different. More would always be great. If anyone's writing checks, we are still the Rock of York officially at the moment, so please make it out to the Rock of York for now. So tonight we have Urban Rev and Life Zone, and anyone who helped in Clifton over the past year and that project that we were doing. We are all meeting in pillars from 6 till 7, and that's basically to have a chat and a planning session for 2018, because we'd like to still be doing work there, but obviously we can't do it without you guys. After that, we're going to go for a drink in Brigantes. If anyone would like to join us for that, it'll just be after 7 though. On Wednesday, we're meeting here in the main hall. We've got a Rob Bell talk, or is it a video? Video. So come and watch that. Everything is spiritual. We're going to start that at 7:30. Doors open at 7:15, so please do come to that if you're available. And then the next one is a big one. It's all about parking. So this year, we're doing something slightly different to what we've been doing previously. So, not slides yet. So hopefully you all got my text today about how we're parking and how we're doing parallel parking. If you aren't on the text list, please do see me afterwards so that you can be kept involved and in the loop about what's happening. I don't send loads of texts because I know how annoying they can be sometimes. So it's just information that you need to know. If you're not on the list, please see me and I'll add you. This is basically how we have previously parked. That's not how we've previously parked. The diagonal one. Number 1. Okay, this isn't working. Okay, so it's meant to be funny, but basically, don't park like this, where you're this is how we've previously parked, in the bays, and then, as you can see, you can't get that many cars in. What we're now going to do is, hopefully what's worked tonight, as well, we're all parallel next to each other, which means that we can get loads more cars in. So during church, that's how we're going to be parking, okay? The other thing is that permits for 2018 are going to be available before the meeting, not after the meeting. So as from next week, we'll have somebody on resources at the front there able to give those permits out. However, they are now for use
for church events only. So, if you're coming to get your haircut in town, please don't come and park here. Unless you've asked. We obviously want to help you out as much as possible, but we have had loads of problems this past year, I would say, getting more and more problems towards the end of the year. So what we want to do is make sure that we can accommodate everything that's going on here. I think for me, when Beth, who works here, and Anth, who's the big boss, when they can't get parked here, for me, that's a problem. So please, if you are wanting to park here, but you are not coming to be on site here to be involved with something that's going on, please just do ask beforehand, and we will try and accommodate you where we can. Okay, Saturdays, though, this is the good thing for you. Anyone who likes to go into town on Saturdays, you can come and park here now because we're not open on Saturdays anymore. So please feel free to come and park on Saturdays. Just make sure that you don't block anybody in or park badly, because I don't want to be getting calls about that on my day off. All right? Now, I think that's probably all there is to say. Have I missed anything? No? Okay, lovely. Well, have a lovely night, everybody. See you soon.
I've been in symphonies. Before all I heard was silence, a rhapsody for you and me. And every melody is timeless. Life was bringing me along. Then you came and you cut me loose. Was solo singing on my own. Now I can find the key without you, and now your song is on repeat, and I'm dancing on to your heartbeat. And when you're gone, I feel incomplete. So if you want the truth, I just wanna be part of your symphony. Will you hold me tight and not let go? Symphony. Like a love song on
Throughout the history of man's interaction with God the divine, he has called men and women to pursue the road less traveled. The trouble with institutionalized religion is it always likes to take the road well traveled, which often has led us somewhere where we didn't want to go. So thank you for being part of something in Q where we're trying to take the road less traveled. And I'm sure that if all of it doesn't suit you, there'll be weeks when you think this is amazing. But the purpose is bigger than just our self-satisfaction. So thank you guys we want to be part of the symphony. Okay, so we left this guy, Abraham, Middle Eastern shepherd, looking up into the heavens, the biggest thing that he was aware of, looking at the smallest thing that he knew, the grain of sand, with a promise from God. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that if you think about the heavens, they kind of tend to instigate something in us of the spiritual, the beyond, the out of reach, that we can't reach. That's something that is out of our reach. And yet when we come down to the sand of the seashore and we find something within our reach, it's fascinating that what God should choose to show Abraham is a product that is one of the most abrasive products known to man, from which we make sandpaper. And we don't make sandpaper so we can make a display in our living room of what it would be like to be at the beach. We use sandpaper as abrasion so that we can take the rough edges off things, because that's what sand is used for. So, in your practical life, what all this is about, there's lots of things that seem out of reach, and all the other things seem very abrasive, and somehow we get stuck between the out of reach and the abrasive, and if we don't know our purpose, the truth is each one of those will leave us empty and unfulfilled and alone and not belonging. So God uses these two elements to draw Abraham in this ancient text into a lesson that means something by illustration. And so as God is showing this, what's interesting is that God then speaks to Abraham. And when he speaks to Abraham and conveys the message, it's all about how special you are. Here's the language that was used. Your descendants will be as the stars of the heaven. Your descendants will be about the sand of the seashore. God didn't say, my descendants will be like the stars of the heaven. My descendants are like the sand of the seashore. He put all the blessing and the glory onto Abraham. He said, this is about you. This is about this is about your life. This is about what will come out of you if you understand the dynamic of pulling these two things together instead of separating them, so that earth and heaven are one, and in the middle stands you, where spirit meets and life flows, and that it's about your descendants. It's about your life. And I want you to know the message of the gospel today is not God bringing you here to talk about himself. It's God bringing you here so he can bless you and talk about you, which seems rather strange because it's like tipping the whole thing on its head. That God's focus is towards us, and he wants us to receive that focus so that we can become all that we are supposed to be. God was showing that we are part of that, and that is part of us, this greatness. And the life of God is in all of it. And if the life of God is in it all, then the Spirit of God is in it all. And if the Spirit of God is in it all, then everything is spiritual, within us, at our disposal, and God is the connection point. This is not a feel-better message. This is the center of all this is God meeting with you so that the vastness out there and the smallness down here all come together in one, and you're the focus. Abraham's the focus of this story, not God saying, Abraham, look how amazing I am. Abraham, look how brilliant I am. It's like God takes all of that and he focuses all in and says, Abraham, this is about me and you. This is about us. This is about now. This is about life. This is about what can happen in this moment, in all of eternity that has gone and that is to come. It's like all of a sudden this Middle Eastern shepherd on a mountainside is the center of the universe, and God is meeting him, with him, empowering him, enabling him for something immense to come out of his life. This is the truth of the gospel. God was conveying to Abraham in these experiences an essential truth. And this was the essential truth. Number one, not only are we loved and approved beyond measure, which we are, that's what was happening with Abraham. Abraham, you are loved and approved beyond measure. The covenant is all mine. The promise is with me, of which you become a beneficiary. But here's the big thing. We are all a big part of something small. See, from the sand, from the atoms, from the video we saw, and we come back to us, they're all smaller than us. We're all a big part of something small. You're a big part of something small. You're a part of your kid's life. You're a part of your friend's life. You're a part of your family. That there are things that you can bless because you're a big part of something small. But that's not all. At the same time, you're also a small part of something big. So you're a big part of something small, but you're a small part of something big. And in the middle of that is where heaven and earth meet. It's where the dynamic of the Spirit of God touches humanity. And the lesson I want you to learn tonight is that you are a big part of something small. So you better get off your backside, get off your ego stool, brush off all that stuff, and be a big part of something small. Be a blessing in somebody else's life other than your own life. Other than your own circle. You are a big part of something small that you can influence. But then don't get an ego and get proud. Be humble, because you're also a small part of something big. Something much bigger. A world-changing, life-changing, something beyond us. Something when you look at the stars and say, it's out of my reach, but suddenly it's within your reach. Because God brings it all together and says, I have empowered you to be a big part of something small. Be it. Be it. But I've also empowered you to understand you're a small part of something big. When you feel overwhelmed, is the time not to think I'm a big part of something small, but that's when you think I'm a small part of something big. There's something beyond me. Way out there, it goes further than we've ever imagined. And science says we're going to reach the boundaries. And when they found the boundary's a little further. And we're going to find the smallest thing. But when they find the smallest thing, they find it goes even smaller. And the further you go, the weirder it gets. The more you discover, the more it breaks the rules. And the more it breaks the rules, the more you see God. And when you see the God that breaks the rules, you realize we were not called to justify ourselves by the keeping of rules, but by the one who's broken the rules, so that the stars of the heaven, the sand of the seashore, from the furthest point out, for the tiniest point down, it all meets together. And you are God's Abraham tonight. It speaks as clearly and as specifically to you as he did to Abraham, and says, consider that, consider this, and you be a big part of something small, but be a small part of something big. I'm going to show you a video just to close off this little talk of an amazing piece of art. And all I'll say to introduce it is watch how life shows up when you engage with this truth. Did you notice how, by being a big part of something small, just filling those cups with the right thing and using them and putting them in place, that became a small part of something big? And that when that all works out, I'm so glad that the theme of the picture was a baby in the womb. That's what God was trying to say to Abraham, and that's what he wants you to reach out to. Here's what I wrote to finish. Be willing to lose your life into these truths, and your life will explode with the power that put them there in the first place. It's all here. It's all at your disposal. It's all for you to receive. And it says, Abraham believed God, and it counted. Believe God tonight, and it will count. A prayer. In this place tonight, Father, I just pray as hearts are open, that you'll help us not to see the heavens as out of reach, and to see the earth as just abrasive, but see ourselves like Abraham, in the middle of these two great extremes, but the focus of your love and your kindness, calling us to go where we've never been before, to be what we've never been before, to do what we've never done before, to receive what we never had before. By your grace, I pray every heart that's open right now and crying out to you will receive that in Jesus' name, to be a big part of something small, but also a small part of something big, because everything is spiritual. Yeah. Slide.
Red roses too, I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll never know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful
Hey everybody, it's Danny and Jack here. It's time to go to Life Zone. So kids, if you are aged 5 to 11, if you're at primary school, then follow my lovely team down the aisle this way or this way through the doors at the side of stage. Parents, please make sure your kids have their shoes with them. Today we are going to play a load of games, have a load of fun, and we're going to learn more about what a quest is. See you there, bye!